Hello everyone, let's get started. So this week we are going to cover user perspective. Before that, let's see what we have covered so far. In the previous lectures, we discussed design thinking, design process, interaction design process, and we also had tutorial on interaction design process and hands-on experience with Figma. I hope you learned a lot. This is the outline for this week. We'll be starting with user perspective. Primarily, we'll be talking about persona, data synthesis, and we will be revisiting design thinking that we have learned in the last lecture. And we'll also be having tutorial on user's perspective as well as a hands-on experience with Miro tool this week. Why user perspective? As we have discussed earlier, we are aiming to build human-centered problems where human is in the center, and we have to build solution in such a way that is intuitive in nature, easy to use, and efficient and effective. So what is the key? Key is the user. So as part of the user perspective, we'll try to learn more about the user, what is their expectations, what they want, and so on. So let's get started with user perspective in SCI. So user perspective are the lens through which we understand how people perceive and interact with the technology. It focuses on designing systems that accommodate diverse user needs and behavior. So user perspective guide the development of interfaces that are intuitive, efficient, and satisfying. So the aim is how we can improve the user experience while using the system. And Jacob Nielsen rightly said, if you want to make things work for the people, you have to design from the user's perspective. That is the key. So what are the aspects of user perspective? We need to understand user needs, discover what users are trying to achieve with the product, what they are willing to achieve while doing different functionalities. Example is a project management tool prioritizing tasks, optimizing for remote teams. How we can do that? Next key aspect is the user experience. It is a holistic perception of the product, how easy to use it, what is their functionalities, and the appeal. An example is a weather app that clearly displays example a weather app that clearly displays forecast with minimum navigation. Next key aspect is the usability. It focuses on efficiency and effectiveness of the interface through which you interact with the system. Example is a live streaming platform with easy to navigate categories for finding movies, drama, or anything that is of your interest quickly. Next key thing is the accessibility. We have to ensure that everyone, regardless of their abilities, disabilities, can use the interface. And in the earlier lecture, we discussed about different guidelines for accessibility, which the developer and the designer should keep in mind while building the system. An example is a reading app offering adjustable font sizes and a dyslexia friendly mode so that they can easily adjust the size and read it accordingly. So another key thing is to consider what all types of user perspective we have. So we could have a novice user who are who prefer simple intuitive interface with very clear instruction, who are probably not very tech savvy, and so on. So for example, a photo editing app offering step-by-step guidance for the beginners. You may also have expert users who look for advanced featured shortcut and customization options. For example, a coding environment with Visual Studio Code with a customized feature for developers. You may also have casual users who need a kind of balance between the simplicity and the functionality without overwhelming options. They are more, you can say, the intermediate users, and examples for them is a fitness tracking app with the straightforward activities log. We may also have frequent users who primarily focuses on efficiency, speed, and familiarity with the routine task because they are going to use the system or the app that you have very frequently. So example is an email client with quick access folder and advanced search functionality. There are challenges in understanding user perspective because different users we deal with are different. They have different traits, they have different personalities, they have different needs. So accordingly, we have to build our system to understand them and provide the solution accordingly. So we have diverse user needs. So designing for broad audience can lead to a conflicting requirements. So example is balancing simplicity for beginners with advanced features for the experts. Usability versus aesthetics, prioritizing easy of use without sacrificing visual appeal. So example is a sleek interface that still provides enough functionality for the expert users. Another challenges that we face is user testing limitations. Selecting the right demographic for accurate feedback is very important. Otherwise, you end up having wrong feedback from the wrong user and the wrong environment, and which eventually affect your system. Example is testing a gaming app with both casual and hardcore gamers to balance the features so that you understand you may have a beginner or maybe a hardcore gamer as a user, and your system should support both of them. Adapting to the trends, keeping with the evolving user expectations and the technology. Example is integrating AI feature, which is one of the booming area in this movement, in response to the rising demand for personalized experience. And that's what Jared Spool said. Good design is a lot harder than it looks. It is important to understand that people are not designer. So if we assume that the users have the same understanding, same aesthetics understanding or functionality understanding like us, then it is not right. So they are not designer, they are user. And again, we have the diverse set of user as we discussed. So we have to design accordingly. So there are few principles in user-centered design as we have discussed earlier as well. User research that primarily involves survey, interview, observation to understand the user needs. We have iterative design, so that continuously testing, refining, and improving based on the feedback that we are getting from the users. Prototyping, that is more about creating low to high fidelity prototype to visualize the concept. That is something tangible you can interact, that you can play with to see whether the functionalities that you're looking for is there or not. Are you able to accomplish the task that you want to do or not? User testing, so gathering insight from the real user to validate the design decisions. And finally, the feedback loop, continuously integrating user feedback for enhancement. Because as we discussed earlier as well, you can't reach to the perfect product in just one go. That requires continuous feedback, continuous iterations, and the changes in the system. So design is a continuous conversation between the designer and the user, as said by the Alan Cooper. Completely agree with it. So let's discuss some real world examples from the user-centric design. Our favorite example, Airbnb, which focuses on the user-friendly booking, search, personalization, suggestions, and it provides a seamless and trustworthy platform for both travelers and the host. Apple iOS consistent design language across device with easy to use features for all users, and it emphasizes accessibility features like voiceover for visually impaired users. In Google search, as we know that it is known for minimalistic design, fast response, and smart search prediction. But at the same time, it has balances simplicity for novice user with the advanced tool for expert like Google Scholar, specifically for the research community and different from the simple search that we use. Accessibility, as we discussed, is one of the key thing in our user-centered design. So from user perspective point of view, it emphasizes the importance of design for all users regardless of their abilities. So that's why there are assistive technologies, there are accessible design principles and regulatory compliance which facilitate that. So designing for accessibility is not about keeping up with the rules, it's about creating the world that include everyone and no one is left behind, right? So let's discuss a case study here, designing for the user satisfaction, because end of the day, if the user is not satisfied with your solution that you have built, the product that you have built, they are going to leave your system, and that is something you never want as a company. So discuss how user feedback shaped a product redesign. So Spotify is another popular use case where Spotify designed to focus on user playlists based on the listening habits and the feedback, and it highlight the impact of iterative design on the customer satisfaction. And the difference you can see here between the old UI as compared to the new one. So there are several trends in user-centered design, and we have to be updated with it and probably utilize them in our solutions. AI and personalizations, predicting user behavior for personalized experience. For example, Netflix recommendation system adapting to the user preferences. Voice user interface, it is one of the quite popular um, solutions and technology people using these days. In most of the solutions, doesn't matter it is just simple website or mobile app or anything, people are adding the functionalities for voice user interface. So it increased adaptation of voice activity system because it's easier to speak rather than just writing a long sentence and so on. Example is Amazon's Alexa's skill expanding based on the user commands like Alexa, what is the date today? Alexa, can you set a reminder? And so on. AR VR is another new booming area. So we are providing immersive experience in gaming, training, and healthcare. Examples: IKEA's augmented reality app that lets users visualize furniture in their own space. Sustainable design, which is focus on eco-friendly and low energy interfaces. So again, this is something quite interesting to see that because there are many users who are eco-friendly and their expectations from any system that they are using probably around the same. So example, designing interfaces with dark modes to reduce energy consumption. And design is about making things better for people and the planet, as said by the Tim Brown. So let's go more details for persona in user-centered design. So what is a persona in user-centered design? A persona is a fictional, data-driven representation of a target user based on the real user research. After doing your research, at least you know what kind of people you are going to have, and accordingly you can choose them. You can create some fictional personality based on that. So the purpose is to guide design decision by understanding the goals, need, and the pain point of different user segment that you are going to interact with. And the importance is it helps designer to keep the user's perspective at the forefront of the design process, ensuring that solutions are tailored to specific user needs. You can't create a great product without understanding who you are designing for. If you don't know your customer, how you're going to serve well. If you don't know your user, how you are going to increase their user satisfaction, their user experience. So how to create a persona? So the step one is conduct user research. You conduct qualitative as well as quantitative data. Again, there are several ways you can do so by conducting surveys, interviews, and analytics. You can also discuss with experts. Identify patterns. Analyze data to identify common traits, goals, and the challenges among them. Next step is to develop the persona profile. That is the fictional profile we are talking about. So create a detailed profile including probably the name, age, background, motivation, and finally their goals. And next step is use persona to inform design. So refer to the persona throughout the design process to ensure that the user needs are addressed. So let's talk about our project wave that we discussed earlier. Here, the problem is the visually impaired students are often struggle to learn Braille due to the lack of interactive tools and the guidance. Traditional methods are outdated and fail to engage them. So how can make it engaging? How they can basically learn more engaging way? Second is limited and insufficient teaching assets lead to the decreased instructor motivation, while existing tools make tracking progress difficult and have steep learning curve. How to keep the teachers motivated? And the third one in this work is despite government funding, the PWD sector and the regional language support, their implementation struggle due to the lack of user-centric tools and adequate support system. So can you imagine who will be the stakeholder in this case? Who could be your fictional users in this case? So how you'll find out? You'll find out as I discussed through the survey and the questionnaires, through the interviews, through the field studies, and so on. Conducting the survey and questionnaire help you in usability of the new app feature that you want to have in your system. User interview, basically you can conduct with some, for example, elderly users to improve accessibility. And field study is more you go into the environment of the real user and see what are the challenges they are facing, be it like teachers, be it like learners or the organization itself. So there are methodology to create persona. So we have to basically perform the usability testing. So it observe how user interact with a system in real time. Example, usability testing of a new website layout to catch the navigation issues. We also discuss about A/B testing, so that compare two versions to see which performs better. Example, testing two versions of home page to see which has a higher conversion rate. One thing to notice here, rightly said by Erica Hall, the most important thing about survey is asking the right questions. If you don't ask the right question, then probably you're not going to solve the right problems. And the answer you get depends on what you ask. Often users are not that much even aware what all the or exact solution they're looking for. Probably they can tell you the situation, and based on your experience you can figure out what they want. So in surveys, basically survey and questionnaires are structured tool used to collect quantitative and qualitative data from the users. They are valuable for understanding the user demographic, behavior, preference, and attitude. This is one of the key things for creating the persona. So the purpose is to gather insight directly from the target user to validate assumption about the user needs and expectations, because often you may have a wrong assumption due to cultural difference, due to many other differences that you may have, or maybe even due to bias. So it's very important to validate the assumption when you are going to build something for the user, to identify trends and the common challenges among the user groups. There are several types of questions you can ask. Close-ended questions, so it's simply you have the fixed set of answers, say yes or no, or some multiple choice answers, or probably you can ask on a rating scales, what do they think about some problems or features and so on. There are open-ended questions, again it's more like free text, where they are allowed to respond anything, they are allowed to write anything what they feel in their own natural language, that provide deeper insight into user motivation and the experiences. An example you can see here, a gaming company uses a survey to ask users about their favorite game generates to prioritize new feature development. Similarly, for an e-commerce platform, conduct a questionnaire to measure customer satisfaction with the mobile app's navigation. There are pros and cons for this. It's easy to distribute to larger group, efficient to gather broad range of user opinions. Results are easily quantifiable for data-driven decisions. But at the same time, the limitations are limited depth compared to the qualitative methods like interviews. Risk of biased responses if questions are not well designed. That's what Erika said, right? We need to ask the right questions. Users may rush through questions affecting accuracy. So there should be some way to figure out whether user is giving the appropriate response or probably intentional response, or the person is just rushing through the response and just filling any random options. So how to ensure that? So again, so there are several ways to basically ensure that. One common method is probably you can repeat the question. So by repeating the question, if the person is filling random responses, it might be the case for the repeated question that you have asked probably at some other place, the person will give the different answer. So it means the user is not consistent in its response. It means the person is not giving a deliberated, or you can say a thoughtful response. So you can ignore such noisy users from your survey. Otherwise, this will unnecessarily lead you to the probably the wrong assumption, wrong insight about the user. Another thing probably often people do, they also try to find out how this particular set of users are doing as compared to probably the other set of users. So that is something you can also compare and decide. So brainstorming in user research. So brainstorming is a kind of creative problems solving technique used to generate a large number of ideas or solution in a short period of time. So it encourages free thinking and exploration without immediate judgment, help teams to think outside the box. So the purpose is to generate diverse ideas, solution for a design problem, to foster collaborative environment where the idea is considered regardless of how unconventional or out of the box it is. As we discussed in earlier lecture as well, in the brainstorming, we don't judge the users. It's more about let them freely tell what they think, maybe good, bad, or anything, to ensure that team explores multiple perspectives and the solutions. So the process involves is defining the problem, set ground rules, generate ideas, and group ideas. So in case of defining the problem, clearly articulate the design challenge or problem to be solved. No idea is too small or silly. Encourage all participants to contribute. Generate idea. Participants suggest as many as ideas as possible within a set of time. Focus on quantity, not on quality. So in the previous lecture, we have also discussed about 8S, where the users basically generate 8 ideas in 8 minutes. So group ideas. So after brainstorming, review and group similar ideas for the further refinement. And the key principle involved, as discussed, no judgment, encourage wild ideas and build on the ideas of others. So let's talk about our project Wave, where we have to design an app that helps visually impaired students from to learn Braille effectively and independently, addressing the challenges faced by the beginner learners, teachers, instructor, or the disability organization. So this is something we come up after the brainstorming in our projects. So that is something similar. You can also come up with the different ideas after brainstorming and use them. So the goals of the brainstorming is to generate ideas for feature and tools to assist visually impaired students in learning Braille, explore ways to personalize learning experiences, enhance accessibility, and improve progress tracking for all stakeholders. Identify solutions for scalability and affordability in the distributing the app. So let's go one by one in greater details what has been brainstormed for different stakeholders we have. So for example, for beginner learners, so having a kind of interactive tactile learning that uses haptic feedback to help students feel braille letters on their device, or create virtual braille books with tactile input so that the students can touch and feel the character while learning. You may also have kind of audio guidance where you can provide text to speech for braille characters and words, allowing learners to hear the sound of the characters as they study. Add voice command for the student to ask the app for help when they are stuck or probably need clarification. So that's more about, you can say, can we use some combination of the braille and probably other modality. So one of my student basically working on building a system where visually impaired student can switch from one modality, for example braille reading, to the audio modality, or vice versa, depending on their proficiency, depending on their needs, and so on. So for beginner learners, the gamification, so where develop interactive braille games that challenge learner to identify the and learn the braille characters quickly. So in our childhood probably we might have seen many such games for typing and so on. So use rewards, badges, progress levels to motivate students to continue practicing. So gamifying the education is one of the, I would say, the hottest area these days, and there are so many research groups are working towards the same. Personalized learning paths, because the learning ability of the different students are different. So can we make it more adaptive? Can we make it more personalized to the user? So creative adaptive learning paths where the app adjusts difficulty based on the learner's progress that you have. Include visual ads that help students understand the spacing and the patterns of the braille. And for other stakeholders like teachers and the instructor, you may have progress dashboard. So develop a teacher dashboard that tracks individual students' progress in real time, showing which character they have mastered and which need more practice, so that accordingly they can make the practice set or probably give more time on improving those learning. You may have customized lesson plans, so allow teachers to create and customize braille lesson and share them with the students. Enable instructor to assign tasks and track the completion rate of individual students. You can also have interactive training mode, where you can include a mode where teacher can demonstrate how to write braille while explaining the purpose to students. And to our last stakeholder in our app, for disability institution and organization, they need basically scalable distribution, because They want to reach to as many as visually impaired students to help them. So develop an app for cross-platform accessibility. The cross-platform to support more accessibility, because the different users may have different phones. So someone may have Android, someone may have iOS, and someone may have don't have any. So in that case, they have to rely on the web. So ensuring that it is available for a wide range of users. Institutional licensing, so offer a subscription or licensing model that allow institutions to access the app at a discounted rate for bulk distribution to the schools and organizations. So the purpose is how we can help as many as people as we can, at the same time probably be sustainable. As discussed earlier, for multilingual support, we have to provide language option for students from different regions. So for example, in India, we have more than 20 official languages and probably thousands of unofficial languages. We say that, every 50 or 100 kilometers, the language changes, dialect changes. So allowing the institution to use the app across various linguistic backgrounds. So general feature for all stakeholders, the combined one, you can see that the accessibility setting, the offline functionality, the feedback, and community support. So for haptic feedback learning, real-time progress tracking, gamified learning, institution support. So that is the basically the, you can say that, key solutions after the converging phase of the brainstorming. So the best way to predict the future is to create it. So in this case, we want to help the visually impaired student in a better way so that we can improve their learning and help them in making a wonderful life for them as well as they create for others. So empathy mapping in user research. So empathy mapping is a tool used to understand the user emotions, thoughts, and behavior. It helped design team build a deep human-centered understanding of the user needs, motivation, pain points, and the experiences. The purpose is how can we get to know more about the users that you have. So create empathy for the user by visually mapping their thoughts, feeling, and behaviors to translate user research into some actionable insights, to align the team around a shared understanding of the user's perspective. So the process involves conducting a user research to gather data from the interview, survey, and observation, as we discussed in earlier slides, create the empathy map and divide into these sections: says, thinks, does, and feels. If you can find this information for the different stakeholders you have, for the group you have, you can answer these very important questions, and that will help you in understanding about the user base you have, their expectations, needs, and so on. So says primarily focus on direct quotes or the statement from the user. Thinks, it's more about what the user is thinking but may not express. Does is primarily about observed behavior or actions. And finally, feels about the emotions and the mood the user experiences. So let's go deeper into this. So this is the empathy mapping. As you can see here, we have built for our project Wave. So where it focuses on combined empathy mapping for a braille learning app that we are talking about. So the stakeholders we had are beginner, braille learner, teacher, instructor, and disability organization and institutions. So in this case, as you can see here, we write says, thinks, feels, and does based on the criteria we mentioned earlier. So like these are the exact statement given by the user: I want to feel what I do, right? Similarly, you can see for thinks, for does, for feels, you can do that for your projects as well. So let's see how Some example in this case for says, beginner level says, I struggle with remembering all the Braille character. And teacher said, I need a tool to monitor my students' progress efficiently. And institution said, we need a scalable and accessible solution for Braille education. So, what is the common insight? So, the common insight from all the stakeholders, you can say that all the stakeholders express a need for better accessibility, progress tracking, and easier learning paths. Similarly, things in this case, you can see beginner level, uh, beginner learner says, you derive what beginner learner says. I am ever going to be able to read Braille fluently. Teacher thinks, how can I ensure every student is progressing at their own pace? And institution can think, can this app be effectively distributing the to schools and institutions? So the common insight comes here. There is a fear of slow progress and uncertainty about the personalization and scalability for institution. And does the beginner learner practice Braille using the tactile interface or the Braille display may ask for help from teachers. Beginner level, so practice Braille using tactile interface or Braille displays may ask help from the teachers. Teachers does track students' progress manually or with existing tools, recommend extra resources if required, if the student is lagging behind. Institution does distribute the app to students, train instructor to use it, and integrate with their programs. So the common insight comes here. Active use of the app is happening across all the groups, but there is a room for better integration of tracking and personalized learning tools. And the last one is feels. So beginner learner feels frustrated at times but also motivated when the progress is seen. Teacher feels hopeful that technology can improve Braille education but also stressed by the challenge of integrated into the curriculum. Institution feels optimistic that app can make a difference but concerned about its affordability and accessibility for all students, because usually such solutions are not cheap. So common insight is getting here. There are mixed emotion ranging from frustration due to lack of progress or resource, and the hope is to the technology will improve the Braille learning education. So the summary of combined insight here: for learner, they need personalized learning tools, interactive feedback, and motivation to keep progressing. Teachers, they need tools that help them track student progress, offer tailored guidance, resources, and so on. For institution, they need a scalable solution at a cost effective and accessible for all students. And where is the opportunity for design? So here you can create a personalized learning experience for the beginners. You can develop features for progress tracking that both teachers and the students can easily use. And you can ensure that the app is scalable and can be easily distributed to institution schools while maintaining accessibility standards and the guidelines. So the next we are going to see how you can do the similar empathy mapping for these apps. So can you do the empathy mapping? So can you do the empathy mapping for cab booking app, running app, online exam app, gym training app? And the activity that you have to perform here is to identify all stakeholders and create an empathy map and divide into the sections says, thinks, does, and feel, as we have discussed for Braille learning app. So methodology for creating persona. So in this case, for our project, you have seen that we have three stakeholders. So persona development, we use the collected data to create 3 to 5 persona that represent key user groups, focus on demographic, motivation, behaviors, and the challenges, and we'll show you now the persona for the braille learning app that we have built. So these are the 3 persona we have created. Vimansh Arora, a fictional person, you can say that, who is beginner, probably 9-year old in the 4th grade, and recently lost his vision due to the medical condition. So the person was able to see before. Although learning Braille, Vimans find it difficult to understand the new language he is about to live with. At the same time, we have another user you can see, Bhargavi. She is intermediate user, 27-year-old, and but she is born blind. So Bhargavi has using the Braille since young age. She has decided to take her story to the world and empower the woman through her writing using the screen readers and the Braille keyboard. Another stakeholder that we have, Akanksha. She is teacher, 37-year-old, with 7 years of experience. Akanksha is a well versed with the field. However, she has been losing motivation due to the limited tools that can be used in the classroom to make learning fun. So for different persona, as we discussed, we have to find who they are, what are their goals, and what is the frustrating point. So in this case, you can see here, Viman said, I may have lost my sight, but I never stop exploring the world in my own way. He is eager to basically learner faces his problem like brave fighter but find it difficult to adjust the sudden changes because he was able to see earlier but now he can't. So he wishes to have an interactive learning asset to learn Braille. So the goal for him to learn Braille in fun way, engaging tools to boost skills, and the frustration, struggle with the Braille demographics, and need probably more rewarding classes and so on. So for teachers, Akanksha, so teach them to find their ways and they will navigate the world on their own. So the goal here is tailor teaching methods for each students, more personalized or adaptive teaching tool each students, engaging learning space for students so that they can be motivated, they have fun while learning. So the frustration is struggles to find new ways to excite the class and need ways to track student progress. So can we help her? Similarly, Bhargavi, our another persona in our app. So words have the power to light the path where vision can't reach. So the goal for her, explore tools to increase typing efficiency and use writing to empower women. At the same time, the frustration she's having limited access to the advanced tools and struggle with the multitasking between reading, writing, and managing. So this is a sample persona for e-commerce platform. So the persona name you can give Sophia, the busy professional. You can give the demographic like age, occupation, and proficiency. And motivation for her is quick, seamless online shopping experience. Prefers mobile-friendly platform due to busy schedule, so that even while traveling in the bus or probably in the train, she can do the shopping. And the goals here is buy quality product with reliable delivery, keep track of favorite brands and promotions. The pain point, she has limited time to explore complex interfaces and she is frustrated by the slow loading pages and unclear navigation. And the behavior is she uses mobile devices for 80% of the online purchase. So she prefers mobile for e-commerce shopping. So shopping during the lunch break or the commute, as we discussed. So she want to utilize the time she is having during the commute or probably the lunch break and so on. Similarly, These are other examples of persona uses. So you can um, think of Spotify, Microsoft Office, and so on. Similarly, for Airbnb, you can think of um, persona like business travelers and the probably family vacation to customize booking experience. So you can optimize the interface for different scenarios like business trip and the family vacations. So Luke said, understanding the persona help us speak directly to the user's heart and needs, not just their brains. So benefit of using persona is empathy, focus. So it puts designer into the shoes of users and fostering empathy. And focusing help us in prioritizing the features that matter most to the target user. For example, a fitness app adding motivational reminder for health conscious persona. As we know that every 1st of January, people take resolution to probably go to gym every day, be fit, but they lose interest probably after a week itself. Can we help them? Consistency. So it ensures that the design team shares a common understanding who the user is and creating such persona, keeping everyone on the same page. So a team referring to the same set of persona for designing consistency across platforms. Effective communication, it provides a shared language among the stakeholders about user needs. So using persona in presentation to explain why certain decisions were made. So these are some tips for creating effective persona. So base person or base persona on data. Avoid assumption, because if that is something based on the data, some validation can be easily done and that will be more closer to the real world. So avoid assumption, rely on the actual user research. Keep persona realistic, make them relatable, avoid overly generalized, because if you overly generalize, they are too far from the actual user you are going to have. Include both goals and the pain points, because the goal is something you know what their expectations are, and pain point is where they are struggling. And so balancing what user want with what they struggle with is the best way of going ahead. Limit the number of persona. So usually we limit to 3 to 5 persona, and that is sufficient to cover a major group without over complication, because if you have too many persona, it will unnecessarily make your life hell. Update regularly. Again, revise persona as a new user when the data becomes available for user behavior changes, because as a human, as a group, as a society, we keep changing over the time. So that's what Meena said. Persona should be seen as a living document, evolving with the product. So what are the challenges in using persona? Overgeneralization, that is something we should avoid as discussed in previous slides. So risk of creating persona that are too broad and not reflective of real users. Outdated data, so that's why you need to keep getting the new data, updated data, and so on. So persona becomes irrelevant if not updated with the fresh user data. For example, a travel website's persona not adapting to the new travel behavior after the post-pandemic, after COVID, and so on. Misinterpretation, that is something we should be very careful. Different team members may interpret persona differently, so that will lead to the probably building a solution which even conflicting in itself. Ignoring edge cases, so persona can overlook unique user needs or probably niche scenario, so that is something you have to be careful about. So personas are tools, not absolutes. They should guide, not dictate design decisions. Dan Brown said. So a case study in this case of persona driven design in healthcare app. So you can see that a healthcare app developed personas such as caregiving Sarah and patient John. And it focused on caregiver needing quick access to the patient record and the patient needing medical reminders. And the app includes streamlined navigation for the quick data entry and intuitive dashboard for medical monitoring. So here you can see that some of the best practices for designing persona. So engage stakeholders, use visuals, incorporate scenarios, and of course keep it short. So the conclusion for the persona is personas are essential tools in SCI, helping designers create user-focused solution. When based on solid research, persona improve empathy, focus, and communicate with design teams. Remember that personas are guidelines. It's not rigid rules. As discussed in the previous slide, it should not dictate. They should adopt as user needs evolve. It should get updated over the time when the new user joins in. Persona make the real user real, giving them a seat in the table in every design decisions. Said by Whitney. With this, we stop here and we'll resume the next session later. Thank you.